Well, good day. I have a doozy for you today. You're going to really appreciate this if you are open-minded. If you're not open-minded, you're probably not going to like this at all. And I'm probably not going to share this publicly, because it's not time yet. It's not time to go there yet. But I've been doing a lot of processing, and I'm going to take you through a story of me, my life. And this is my attempt to process this and to begin the journey of integration that is necessary. And so you'll find this fascinating if you are interested in things that are not in the box of conventional thinking. So when I was born 2 months early. Doctor said I had no chance to survive, and I made it. Made it through the incubator, and then at 2 years old, went through a car crash, 55 miles an hour. My mom was holding me in the front seat, broke every bone in my body. We literally went right through the windshield on a head-on collision. Survived that. Drank laundry detergent several years later as a young child. Ended up blacking out, survived that. Fell through the ice, drowned, had this is where it really gets dicey, because that is one version of what I was programmed to believe happened. But in reality, it's a much different story. But there was a drowning experience and a death experience. And then it goes on and on and on. Now, these events were also coupled with what you call supernatural paranormal experiences throughout my life. And obvious tells that someone who is involved in the super soldier program helped me discern and helped me recognize why I've always had people in my life who are part of that program. And I know who my handler was, and I know, I won't mention it, but I know that visions have been coming back to me. I've had the visions throughout my life. And I want to talk about some of that. So to make a long story short, I was part of the Super Soldier program in Montauk, Dark Fleet. I was an officer in Dark Fleet and Special Forces, not for the good side. Unfortunately, I was not on the good side of things as the alter. And what that looks like is it's kind of what you'd call an altered personality, like what you'd call the Jason Bourne program. That's actually a real thing. And I have interesting experiences that always let me know that this was true, but I didn't know how to look into this. I didn't know what was going on. It was kind of like living in one life, but also having another life. And I had experiences my whole life. I played hockey for 20 years. I was a very tough kid. I was in gangs when I was a teen. I was in the mafia shortly after. So I wrote about this in a book that I discontinued called Misfit to Millions. I don't recommend you read it because it doesn't align with my Christian value system, my spiritual side. But I never lost a fight in my entire life. Imagine that. Out of all the years and fights. The only time that was even remotely close was when I drank a whole fishbowl of alcohol at age 19. And I was in downtown Madison, and a UW wrestler was actually able to take me down to the ground, but I still didn't lose the fight. And that was when I was inebriated. So here's what used to happen, is that whenever the altar would kick in, I would go into this flow state, ultimate flow state. And I still do flow state, but this was completely different. This is exactly like what you see in the Matrix, where time stops and I can instantly know what they're going to do, and I move at a speed much quicker than they can compute with their analytical brain. And because they're not in that same state, they don't have a chance. And that used to happen in hockey. I would just whoop the living you-know-what out of them. And then I had this one experience in high school with this kid. I was a sophomore and he was a senior. He was bigger than I was, and he tried to hit me with his car in a parking lot. He sped up because he had a bunch of girls with him. And I jumped out of the way, which is insane because he actually tried to hit me with his car in the parking lot. Imagine that. And so then he gets out of the car, and that was the biggest mistake he ever did. And it all happened in less than 20 seconds, but he ended up in the emergency room for a week on life support. And I'm not kidding you, but I had these abilities to go into the altered state and absolutely, like, savagely emerge as something wicked that you didn't want to deal with. And so I never wanted to reveal that side of me, but when it was triggered, it would just pop out. And I always wondered, where does all this come from? Because seemingly my life is not that weird. Well, I didn't think it was weird, but most people don't have nearly the level of trauma that I had gone through. And so fast forward years later, people start coming into my life, like unusual, strange people that had been involved in these programs, and lots of CIA people. And why was I associating with these people all of a sudden? Why was all this stuff starting to happen in my life? And then I recognized that I had experienced a lot of supernatural things, from viewing a shapeshifter in person to a UFO right outside of my, mansion on top on Blau Road in Spring Green, to the ultimate realization last night when someone helped me facilitate that this was my telekinesis doing it. So I had this experience in this, 8,500 square foot mansion that I lived in, where one night at 3 a.m., it's like, the alarm system's going off, and the lights are flashing in the whole place, and it looked like some sort of horror movie. So I grabbed my Glock, and I walked, up the stairs, and I didn't know what to think. I had no idea what was going on. This thing was going nuts. So the next day, I called the previous owner. He owned an insurance company, and he's been there for years and years. And I said, hey, something happened last night. I explained it to him, and he goes, well, that's impossible. He goes, the alarm system was deactivated, and it never does that in the first place. And I thought, okay, now here's the thing. I wasn't alone that night, so it's not that I'm making this up. I actually had someone with me that was privy to that knowledge as well, firsthand knowledge. And I thought that was strange. And then, going through, I've had experiences where I've been in one reality at one time and then glimpsed, like opened my eyes, and I'm in another location. It's a true story, absolutely true story. Now, how do you tell this to people that don't believe this stuff? Well, you don't. That's the thing. That's why this is not going to be a public video yet. I'm not ready to come out and talk about all this yet. But now I know where it comes from, and now I have a full grasp. And so stuff is starting to come back. And I had fast forward to I moved to Sheboygan, and I'm staying with my friend Matt, who is into the cryptocurrencies, and he came to live with me for a while. And we're in this house, and doors are slamming. We hear voices going, and it's tripping Matt out. He's tripping, and for me it's like, oh, this is paranormal, but I'm used to this stuff. Like this happens. And so I was doing telekinesis through an altar, and I was slamming the doors, and I was doing these things. So what I've come to discover, and it just happened, I live on the beach here, so this is literally my front view. So the other day, about 3 or 4 days ago, I'm sitting in the condo, and I had someone with me, so I have firsthand knowledge through another source. And the walls were banging, like nobody's on either side, okay? And there was like this loud, it sounded like the roof was caving in. It was like the house came alive, and it was pounding like, doo, 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 doo. It was getting louder and louder. That was telekinesis. I was doing that again. And so last night I was processing some of this from someone who's involved in the Super Soldier program and helping me remember, and consequently they were in the same program as me through the same area, through Madison, Wisconsin, in one of the underground military bases. So interestingly enough, I found that person too, and how synchronistic that we were in the same space. So all this stuff is starting to come back into my reality as processing it, so I can be integrated and I can bring those alters into one stream of consciousness, you see. So Anyway, it's a shocker, but I had this moment where she said some experience. She's like, do you remember the chair? And I had this boom, this flash bolt went off. Like in my awareness, my memory just boom, just popped something out. And all of a sudden my face flushed, I was beet red, my pupils dilated wide open. I literally went into like conflict shock active, like as if, yeah, I remember that. And holy crap, like what is this memory? Where is this coming from? That's what you call mind control programs and creating altars. And so, come to make a long story short, what I discover is I'm a human reptilian hybrid, and through trauma, torture, things like that, and the death experience opening up the psychic abilities. Well, first of all, when I went through the Lyme disease, that was an attempting to take me out. That was something that was planned. And because of the training, because of what I have done through the DNA modification, I had regenerative abilities, so I was able to, even without the knowledge, I was able to survive a very severe and aggressive form of that. And telekinesis and prophecy are very strong with me. And it always has been. That's why I was writing songs 2 years before COVID, knowing exactly what was going to happen. It's like I was trained to do this stuff. And so now it's coming back to me, who I was, who I am, and what I'm all about right now, and why this is all coming into full remembrance with me. And so the people are showing up in my life that I've been associated with. You see, this wasn't our first rodeo, and I always wondered, how do I get connected to these people? Like, how does this happen? Well, it's because we were always connected. It's a strange, strange world. Truth is stranger than fiction. I'll tell you that right now. So anyway, I know, and things have been coming back to me, and through the meditations that I talk about, and the meditation is the answer to integrate everything together and spending time in that pure awareness to allow for the healing to take place. You see, I had dealt with some severe traumas. And from my understanding, I was one of the few children who survived this level of, conditioning and fragmentation of mind, etc. So, very, very strange. Very, very strange. But I always wondered, what the heck is going on? Like, I have the ability to stay in flow state all the time. I can do these things like as if it's second nature. And many people who actually tune into me, the chances why you're tuning into me is because you might be connected in some way. So I have a small audience because it's a much different caliber of audience, if you will. So let that integrate with yourself. And then pay attention to who surrounds me, and pay attention to who surrounds you. It's kind of a fascinating concept when you let it all sink in. So, with that said, this is my way of beginning the journey, okay? And this is my way of understanding where I've been, who I am, and where I'm going. And the one thing is that I know that I was an officer in Darkfleet, and my specialty was strategy and mission accomplishment. So I was a strategist, and that's why I knew when PTT came to me that I knew how to defeat this program, because that's what I do. And I knew what was happening, and that's why when I explained it, I can see into those realms. I'm interdimensional through the pineal gland, and I can see into the realms of what's going on the other side. And so if you watch the PTT video, I explained exactly how they're doing it. And I explained exactly how to defeat it. And I explained exactly how we become the nodes in our areas where spiritual special forces, operators that are called and chosen, will go into stealth mode, just like I've been, stealth mode, and disrupt it from the inside out. You slip yourself into their matrix, and you disrupt it and you destroy their program. And that's the end of the cabal in your reality. And that's what I wanted to tell you, and hence Spiritual Special Forces, hence why I met Michael Jaco, hence why, out of the kindness and love of his heart, he comes in and, he drops some seeds with me, and he's telling me some stories and some things that are, and all of a sudden I'm starting to have memories, and then all of a sudden I know who to contact, then all of a sudden I was actually in the same program with this person, and all of a sudden it all starts to become clear, and all of a sudden, and all of a sudden, and all of a sudden. So I'm in a healing phase of my life. I'm in the ascension out of those altars and into just the authentic me that God had created. All right. Now, you never left that. You never left your spiritual perfection. Nobody ever did. But in the simulation, because it's all a simulation through the 3D, truth is stranger than fiction. I'll tell you that. Okay, part 2. Hello. So I'm literally processing what's going on here, and I've been putting the symbols right in front of myself the whole time. You have no idea how powerful the self-entrainment technique is and why the infinity symbol is right on the middle there. And I was explained last night by the person who was helping me facilitate some of this integration, and it's deep. It's so deep, and it's quite literal. I'm literally recruiting spiritual special forces. So when I say spiritual special forces, I'm not just making that up. I'm actually equipping you to be the most elite spiritual people on this planet, really, in terms of what actually will change the reflection of the outer that you're looking to bring about. Because in this spiritual war which we are in, and thank God that I was allowed to be on the right side of this for once, okay? I can't say I always was, but I am now, and I have been ever since I've stepped into my ministry. The strategies that are in the techniques that I put out, these are from years and years of training. This is from being groomed to do this my entire life, not for the good, but for the other side. But now, because of some grace and some act of God, and I remember when it all happened, okay? And I want to explain that to you because a lot of people may not understand the power of the ascended masters and Jesus, because when I accepted Jesus into my heart, this is when this all started happening, is that I remember hands were laid on me, and it felt like an electricity bolt shot right through me, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It felt like a blanket of peace. If you can imagine, a warm blanket on you at night, and you're shivering because you're in terror, and you're used to living in fight or flight and shock, that was my conditioned traumatic brain for the longest time, my whole life. It just was, okay? And once Christ came in, the living Jesus is a living body, and we are in it. You see, that living body took possession of this, and I felt it, and it was so potent and so strong that I could never deny it. And for 2 years after that, I kept thinking about it, thinking, is that some magic trick? Was that, did he have like something on him? What's going on here? And ultimately, I know what I know now, and I know that it's very real now. It's absolutely 100% real. And so, what you see with your lying eyes is not the full story. Just know this, and that there are infinite realities concurrently existing right now. And so, I want you to know that using the techniques, and the reason why I'm so quote-unquote militant about using them every day, is because I know the power within those techniques, and I know what the outcomes are, and I know that they are the tool skill sets in what I'm recruiting people for, spiritual special forces. And I've been recruiting people all over the world and setting up nodes and going stealth mode. And now I'm ready to sort of talk about it because we're already in the trenches and the battle is already happening. So I don't need to be stealth mode anymore. It's time to say, hey, this is what it's all about. This is why we're doing it. And if you're tuning in and you're vibing this, well, then you are selected and you are supposed to do this. And you are going to be one of the heroes in this battle, because when we do win, and of course we already have won, the point is you did your part and you played your role. And it will be something that you will celebrate for the rest of your life. And that's why you're here. That's why you specifically are here. So check in with yourself and decide, you should read 0 Point. You should first go through trust, okay? Trust is the culmination of what you would say is the all of it, okay? Trust is all of it to get you primed, to put you in the consciousness of victory, in a spiritual mastery position, all right? The Christ consciousness will come to you because you will be receptive to it in that place. See, it's about conditioning you to come into receptivity to that transmission of divine wisdom that is always pursuing you. You're a child of the Most High. And so you're going to rise out of this dream of terror in the night. And spiritual special forces is a real thing. And I'm honored and I'm, again, grateful that God gives me the opportunity to meet the people that I've met, to do the things that are happening, and to have the wisdom to bring about the transformation. Because that's God's wisdom. It's all in that book for you, okay? I show you how to win with money. I show you how to win with your health. I show you how to win with relationships. It's all there. That's God doing it. I'm only showing you what God is doing. That's all I do. All I do is I of myself do nothing. I show you what God is doing. Now, the next thing is you get to 0 Point and you begin your 10-day blitzes. All right, you can pick up 0 Point on Amazon. It's a playbook. It's an actual playbook with a strategy. And you go through the training course. I built an entire training course. You see, trust is your base level spiritual special forces primer. It puts you into the knowledge of the Father that is required for you to step into the fullness of your capabilities. The next thing is when you've gotten into the daily practices and you're doing the daily things. You can't just read the book and get there. Don't fool yourself. Do you think you can just watch boot camp and get in conditioning strength? No. You have to do it day in and day out. What you do daily becomes what you become eventually, okay? You have to do the things daily. You have to fight the good fight in the spiritual realm. And these are skill sets that are designed to make you an elite special forces in the spiritual capacity, because that's where the real battle is happening. Carnal is weak. It is weak. The spirit is strong. Now, the next thing is when you are adept in those techniques, ABC break process, safe touch, self-entrainment technique, the 3-2-1 prosperity formula to get your finances right so you can be free flowing in your consciousness and not always fearful about your next meal. You see what I'm saying? This is important stuff. I've been groomed for this my entire life, and it's all coming to me now. I work for the Lord now. I work for the Most High. Okay, I left the Dark Fleet. I work for the Almighty. Love, divine love. Now, here's the deal. When you get into PTT, you become a node. So I was telling someone that's training with me, and she's in Australia where, the battle is heated and heavy right now. And I said, look, you should not be afraid, because you as a node doing this, you can penetrate from within their own matrix, and you can disrupt and destroy the whole program from the inside out. And that's what you're here to do. That's what a spiritual special forces operator does. It's not a big braggadocio show where you're, hey, look at me, I'm ready to go to battle. No, you don't do any of that. It's covert. It's cloaked. It is in disguise at all times. appearing as a normal civilian, but ultimately much, much, much more is going on beneath the surface. That's who you are called to be. So take this seriously, because look, this is your journey. This is your ascension. Put yourself as a node and take it as if your life depends on it, because it does. Your life is God's reflection, and you have to align with this, and you've been called to align with it at the highest level. The challenge is harder for most of you because you're at a higher level of training. You've already graduated throughout your lifetimes through the easy stuff. Now it's harder for you. Hey. So don't try to make yourself, duck away from this. Become stronger than the threat. And these skills will help you. And PTT is how you will effectively destroy everything going on around you that is not of God. You will absolutely destroy it. Do the PTT course, the 0-point course. Go to MatthewDavidHurtado.com and do the course, okay? Look, I'm here for a mission, and I'm on my mission. And this is my training. I was an officer in Dark Fleet. I know how to do these things. I know how to run operations. I know how to defeat what you think is your enemy. It's a consciousness aberration from truth. It is a dark ignorance that, when properly addressed from a higher consciousness, it becomes the light. And that's what you're here to do. And I said it all, and I'll say it again. If you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, it's because you are the light at the end of the tunnel. You are the light. You're a spiritual special forces trainee. Own it. Step up into it. Because it's going to be your victory ceremony at the end of this. When is the end? Well, you're already catching up to what is. The end has already happened. It's already finished. The works of God are already complete. You're in the process of repenting. You are returning to the Father. So now let's get into some stuff, okay? Now I'm going to give you the next level training, as I promised I would. And I'm going to show you where to learn and where to train, because this is where we're going. We began, Michael Jaco gave me the I Am discourses back when COVID began. And, it says he knew exactly where I needed to refine my spiritual mastery walk. And I started studying that, and it really refined me. But more importantly, is because of the meditations, the I Am meditations I was doing, it integrated these altars, and it helped me escape a lot of the traumatic programming that was running in sort of background screens, if you will, and using up my operating system and causing a lot of friction. And so I was able to integrate a lot over the last year, and to really truly know who I am and where I've been, because I'm able to fully handle that now, and I'm able to fully embrace that. And so now the next level is it's called High Mysticism by Emma Curtis. I think it's Emma Curtis Hopkins. It's called High Mysticism. Listen to it from the guy who narrates tremendously well. He's giving voice to the wisdom of the ages. I love his voice. It's so soothing. And it's called High Mysticism. All right? Now, there's one particular part of it that is the next level, okay? And it's the forgiveness part. I think it's chapter 3 or 4. I think chapter 3 is forgiveness, chapter 4 is faith. The forgiveness part of it is the meditation. It is the next level. And what it will do for you is it will help you truly surrender and allow the ascension process to just begin at the highest level. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out my sheet, and this is exactly what I did when I was praying over this city. Is at first I had the I Am discourses sheet, and I was walking through the whole city doing the PTT and absolutely destroying the ignorance that was running rampant here, and it was completely destroyed. The consciousness is very high around here now. So let me share with you the next level, okay? This is very simple, But as you begin to pour your heart into doing this, from already being trained as spiritual special forces, when you begin to do this as the next level, you will begin to see quantum shifts at rapid speed, because you'll realize that it is you of yourself doing nothing. Less of you and more of God, right? So here we go. I surrender my mind to thee. Now we're talking to the I am presence. We're talking to the allness of spirit. Okay? I surrender my mind to thee. Forgive thou its foolishness and ignorance with thy bright wisdom. Here is my life impulsion. I offer it to thee. Forgive thou all its contrariness to thee. Here is my heart. It is thine only. Forgive thou its dissatisfactions. Forgive its restlessness. Forgive its discouragements. Forgive its elations. Forgive its hopes and its fears, its loves and its hates. Here is my body. I cast it down before thee. Forgive thou its imperfections with thy perfection. Forgive me altogether with thyself. So, you maybe have joined me on the 40-day worry-free program. I expect that you'll keep doing that, because you should already have noticed massive shifts in your state of being. Circumstances don't matter, state of being matters. Okay, you know this. Now, if you're doing that, I recommend you go on a 30-day forgiveness journey, because forgiveness clears all human resistance. You see, human resistance is the one thing that is holding you down in consciousness. It's the one thing that's holding most everybody at some level captive to this realm of ignorance. It's forgiveness. This is the solution. If there's one thing I was prophesied over, and this was in the Christian church, and the sweet old lady, I tell you this story, and she said, listen, she said I was a modern day Paul, and I came to solve the unsolvable problems, and that I would always be able to discern the one thing that would defeat the enemy. And it's been true so far, and what I want to tell you is that it's a season of right now forgiveness. The end season of this thing that's happening, the end season comes to its conclusion when forgiveness is fully met within our hearts. Okay? Forgiveness. And this little prayer, this little way of forgiveness, repeated with all genuine, heartfelt emotion to the I am presence, will bring about the transformation in the outer that you're looking for. You will see the victory. You will taste the spoils of war in a spiritual realm where your enemies will be revealed as your teachers. Because that's why we forgive. Because they are your teachers. Imagine that.